Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Film Department Podcast, the official UNLV film podcast that reviews movies and more. I am one of the producers of the show, Professor Adam Paul, and we're coming to you with a special episode this week. It's a pre-season episode as we transition to a new team of hosts and crew. We had an opportunity to see this new Stephen King film, The Long Walk, before its release, and we wanted to give you a quick and dirty review of the film, which we all enjoyed a great deal. We're joined today by Nic Patrick, a host you may recall from last season, and David Rosen, with whom we were able to collaborate last season with his podcast, the Piecing It Together podcast. We have a terrific conversation. I join in, which is unusual, but I couldn't keep my mouth shut. We're looking forward to bringing you a lot of really cool stuff this next season, the fall semester, and we hope you'll subscribe and like and share with all your friends. But in the meantime, enjoy this terrific recording with Nic Patrick, David Rosen, and myself, and we will see you in a few weeks with a whole new crew.
So welcome, David Rosen and returning champion Nic Patrick to this preseason mini episode of the Film Department Podcast, where we all had the pleasure of screening The Long Walk last night, the Stephen King novel adaptation written by Las Vegas local hometown hero J.T. Mollner and directed by David.
Francis Lawrence.
The Francis Lawrence of the Hunger Games fame, with an incredible cast. And I just want to kick it off by letting you guys talk about what you saw last night and your thoughts of the film. Go.
The Long Walk is exactly how it sounds. It is a very, very long walk, but it's very solid. It is very, very solid movie. It has got tons of violence. It's got really great character moments. There's this really nice chemistry between the cast members, which is honestly like one of the biggest things holding it together. The world building is not, where you would kind of want it to be. It could be a little bit more in this kind of alternate society or that kind of Hunger Games-esque type stuff. But it's really solid. It's really, really solid. At times you're on the edge of your seat and you're biting your nails, but it's incredibly fun. What did you think, David?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything you're saying there. Like, I think it's the kind of middle level movie that we want to see more of in movie theaters. It's just a solid, entertaining, easy to recommend movie.
Mm-hmm.
There are things about it that didn't quite work for me, but I love the cast, and I think it's a really well made movie. And Francis Lawrence obviously has had his share of dystopian dramas with, horror elements, action elements, all that kind of stuff mixed in. It's interesting to see him kind of just return to that so blatantly, but at the same time, he's a great pick to direct a movie like this, and he really does make it work. As far as a movie that is literally just people walking and talking until people get shot, like he does a great job. It
should be impossible to work.
Right, exactly.
But
you guys
he definitely makes it.
You guys had last night, David Rosen and another local critic here, whose name I'm forgetting, David, please credit him.
Daniel Howitt.
David Rosen and Daniel Howitt had a fantastic conversation after the film, and you both acknowledged that there's something about this film that's very different than almost everything else out there right now, and speaks to what film fans have been waiting for. Can you talk a little bit about that, David?
Yeah, I think it's that kind of movie that's somewhere in between, like indie, kind of like weird movies that are like difficult to recommend versus the other end of the spectrum, the big blockbuster popcorn kind of movies. This occupies a space where it's interesting, it's relatively smart, it has something to say, it's entertaining, it's funny, it's got a little bit of action in there, drama, all that stuff, all the things that we love about movies. And that kind of stuff has been relegated to streaming or miniseries, stuff like that, which quite frankly I'm not a TV guy, so I never watch any of those things. So it's nice to see that kind of thing in the theater for a change.
Yeah, I think even 5 to 6 years ago, like even 2019, when like a lot of great movies were coming out, you weren't getting those mid-budget films that, you that are just very easy to make a profit, and like attainable to a major like um wide audience. You weren't getting that even in 2019. So it's just kind of nice to see that come back. For honestly the movie industry, but also for audiences too. I think this is something I would recommend, and it's yeah, it's just something you don't see very much anymore. So I agree with that.
What do you think about? There's another film from this summer that I think compares nicely to it, which is Weapons, which has been very successful, understandably so, and still lives in I think this budget range. Maybe it was more. This was 20 million, I think. The Long Walk. Are we looking at a trend? What do you think industry wise?
I think so. I think, and it's hard to say because like we always hear people say we want these movies, but then they still show up for the superhero movies
Yeah.
and don't show up for this stuff. But thankfully they did show up for Weapons, and Weapons did really well. And that's a movie too that I have, some issues with. I liked a lot about it, but didn't exactly love it. But and the same goes for The Long Walk. But at least they are getting there, and I hope we're obviously we're seeing this early, and it's before opening weekend when we're recording this. I hope this movie does well, and I hope we continue seeing these things because these are what people claim to want, and it's like, come on, people, show up.
Yeah. So let's talk about what didn't work for both of you in The Long Walk. Not Weapons. We're not here to talk about Weapons.
Sure, absolutely. And I will say I went into this I'm not particularly a Stephen King fan. There's something about his
hot take.
I know. There's something about his kinds of stories where it's like things happen just because they happen. Like that's the story we're going to tell. And it's like, I know people love him and love his stuff. And there's certainly some movies of his that I have, really connected with. But I generally feel cold by his stories. This is one of the better ones, no doubt. It's entertaining through and through, even if a lot of those kinds of answers and Nick brought up the world building, like we really just don't get enough of what is happening here or why this is happening. But at the same time, it's entertaining enough. But that's the big thing for me. It still feels very Stephen King, and JT Mollner, like I said last night, is on fire, and I'm so excited for anything that is going to have his name on it. But it still feels a lot like a Stephen King story.
Nick?
Yeah, I think a lot of it for me is it plays it very safe. So when again, as I mentioned at the beginning, when you hear the title Long Walk, that is literally what it is. At no point, I don't want to get into spoiler territory, but like it doesn't really stray away from that. The twists aren't kind of making you like, they're not blowing your mind or anything like that. And sometimes a few twists happen, and like what you said, they just happen because they want to happen. I think the only twist that really worked for me was the ending, and I won't say what it is, but that was something that was unexpected and I think needed to happen and organically built up to lead up to that. But there's a twist maybe like 10 minutes before we were just kind of like, I don't really think that needed to happen. That doesn't really shake things up. One of the things that especially didn't work for me was there is one of the boys is built up as an antagonist and has this really interesting arc where we see him kind of pester a kid and it leads to something dark, and then that kind of haunts him throughout the rest of the film. But we never really see that character fully come into like an antagonist position. And maybe it was just me, but that was kind of disappointing. And I was kind of hoping that we would see more of the inner rivalries kind of make this long walk different from all the other long walks. And if we want to bring up Hunger Games and stuff, every single one of the Hunger Games movies is not like all the previous Hunger Games in that world. Like Katniss always shakes it up, something like that, you know? So it is, I do wish that they were able to divert a little bit and maybe turn it on its head.
To that point, do you think this movie would have worked better if the central conceit started with like 20 entrants instead of 50, and so we could actually spend some more time with all of them?
Yeah, I I do think that would work probably because for most of the movie you're just kind of waiting for people to get picked off, and you're like, all right, what's the next event? Like at one point the first big moment where I'm like on the edge of my seat is when they're actually going uphill, and everybody's like, oh geez, you know, they're freaking out. That I was like, all right, cool. But then after that, you're just kind of waiting and waiting, and everybody kind of gets picked off one by one. So the pacing can be a bit off, and yeah, I do think if there were less characters, because there's a lot of throwaway characters too. So
yeah, sure.
you know.
Well, the throwaway nature of it is, I would argue in favor of, although maybe we don't need 50, although there's a whole national theme here about the deeper meaning of the story and why it was written originally 45 years ago, what it was meant to allude to politically and nationally and internationally, quite honestly, and it is relevant today. You guys want to talk about the relevance of the film? We don't have to give away let's not worry about spoilers. I can always edit that out.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very clear that this is meant to be a reaction to everything going on with everybody's disillusionment with everything going on in politics right now. I don't know if this is a spoiler, but I did notice that contestant 45 gets it pretty much the worst. Anybody notice that as well? So I think that's a statement.
Which one is 45?
The one that diarrhea is all over himself before getting shot. Yeah. So I mean, I think that's a statement about a certain other 45. But anyway, yeah, there's a lot of very on the nose, but also like clear reason for this movie to happen right now.
Nick?
Yeah, I do really admire. I just think it's a very interesting concept. I like when I saw the trailers, I thought it was a really cool concept. More so than I think like other dystopian concepts are. Like for some reason I do feel this realism with it, where like if the United States or whatever country this is whatever it is now in this future, I do feel like it's something that they would try to do. It's just close enough to reality and intense, and there's this very strange like masculinity that they try to push out, and you especially try to you feel that a lot with a certain character who ends up having ties to the government and stuff. And I think that masculinity is something that you're especially you see being pushed out right now by the government and stuff like that. So I do appreciate how relevant it is now, and it was even relevant when it was written. And I believe it was Stephen King's first novel.
I think so.
Oh wow,
his first one, but it just wasn't published.
And do you want to talk a little bit, David, about the history of? I mean, it took this thing has been optioned and sort of batted around for decades to be made into a film. Why do you think it took so long? What do you think led to that?
Yeah, I'm not sure why, because it seems like ripe for adaptation. And George Romero was supposed to make this back in the 80s. It was something he was really pushing for. But I think it was just budget reasons and whatnot, which it seems like it could have been made on a pretty low budget at any period. But for whatever reason, it just never worked. And then Frank Darabont was looking at turning it into one of his next projects, but that just never materialized. And I mean, it's something that for whatever reason just never worked. And I do think that they kind of got the perfect writer, cast, director, like all of this just kind of worked really well. And I mean, we haven't talked too much about the cast yet, but they really pulled together a great young cast for this, which you
Yeah.
need to be able to pull off, like Nick said, a movie that is just people talking and walking.
Agreed. And I'm an acting guy, and so I am here to proclaim, and I'm probably not the first, that David Johnson is our next really great actor. And I
So
know he's a
good.
writer as well. He's a super talent, which is wonderful. But boy, oh boy, on camera, he's electric. You cannot take your eyes off him, and he commands the screen in a way that very few actors his age do. And that's not to dismiss Cooper Hoffman, who is riding high himself, and obviously we should expect more from him. This movie is 1 hour and 48 minutes long. Do you hope and pray, as I do, that this is a trend we can see in the future, so I can watch a movie without having to go to the bathroom 8 times?
I mean, I don't mind long run times, but at the same time, I'll say I thought this movie was 2 hours and 30 minutes last night because of how long the walking segments are, and so it didn't feel that short.
I
So
didn't feel that way, and usually I'm the guy who's like, Jesus, please cut something out. I was surprised at how lean it was, and yes, it doesn't move like a Marvel movie or any other movie. It moves differently, but I think it earns its moments. And for me, anyway, the pacing was actually kind of fine, and part of that, I think, and Nick, I'll let you talk in a minute, but part of that for me was because at the beginning, I'm like, oh my God, there are 50 guys. I know what the premise of the story is. I'm going to have to wade through 50 of these guys getting their ticket punched. And they found a solution to that may or may not have been the most impactful. But for me, it worked because it all hangs on really these two main characters played by Cooper Hoffman and David Johnson. All right, Nick, you go.
I think the two main characters are what make it not feel as long for me.
Right.
I just
Tip of the spear,
as you said, like,
by the way, tip of the spear. Actors are the tip of the spear.
Exactly. Yeah, like what David Johnson is able to do on screen is just so engaging, and you like never take your eyes off him. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think I felt the length as much. Honestly, it felt very meditative. Which is not something that I was expecting from that movie. I honestly thought it was going to be more of that, like that anxiety-ridden, that kind of like Safdie Brothers feel.
Yeah.
Where it's just like nonstop, like people are getting picked off and something crazy is happening. Something crazy is happening. But a lot of the time, the movie is spent, with each other, and everybody's talking, and kind of you see these relationships develop more. And that was very surprising. So that's something I kind of did enjoy about it. But again, the pacing could feel a bit off.
I had said the same thing to my wife last night. Like, there's something meditative about it, that very word, and it reminded me in many ways. Speaking of Darabont, speaking of Stephen King, it reminded me of Shawshank in many ways. Like, there's this doom and gloom, but at the heart of it is love, and that's a nice twist for me. Anytime I have to watch people get shot in the head. So I thought that was a neat trick, and one that we probably could use a little more of in these times, especially in a film that is kind of about these times. It is a little more sophisticated than it seems to be, and that is right now, I think, really refreshing. When so many films are packed with so much, and they can hold you for 3 hours simply because you're afraid you're going to miss some little tiny thing that ends up not meaning anything. This film takes its time in a way that I think is respectful of the audience. David, I know you have to go, and I can't thank you enough for joining us. We look forward to partnering with you later this season on something exciting. If you're listening and watching and have not subscribed to the Piecing It Together podcast with David Rosen, you should do that right away. And you should also go to Wax Trax Records, which David Rosen runs. And if you like record albums, David will probably be there to talk to you about them.
That's right.
Thanks for
Absolutely.
joining us, David, and we look forward to what's next.
Thanks so much for having me, guys.
All right, take care. Cool, man.
Right.
Anything else you want to say or talk about regarding the film?
I guess one thing I did want to run by. What did you think of Mark Hamill as the major?
I felt like Mark Hamill was underused, although he's remarkable. And he's earned that as a performer and in the cinema lexicon, and I like him as a bad guy. I really like him as a bad guy. He's a little one-dimensional. So too, sadly, is Judy Greer, who's really the star of the film in terms of credits, and I think in terms of salary. And she's necessary to be there. And I think getting to know her a little better than just screaming on the ground at the horrible things that happened to her would have been useful. And perhaps in a longer version, which I'm never going to vote for, there's more of that. But your question about Mark Hamill, what did you think?
I really enjoyed him. But I for the most part I enjoyed him. But I do think there were some parts where I was like, it's a little corny in a way, and it sometimes it would take me out. And I honestly think it was the glasses.
Right, he never takes his glasses off. It'd be nice to see his eyes.
Glasses off.
Right,
and it. I know why they did it. They don't want him to feel like he has life. They don't want him to feel like he has a soul.
Yeah,
but I think that only works in the first half of the film. I think the second half of the film, as it gets, especially at the ending, like I think the ending, where you see the, it's this final standoff, and like he's still got the glasses on, and it's almost like laughable.
Yeah.
But no, I did enjoy him, and it was really cool seeing him on screen.
Yeah, you wanna love to hate him, and you're stalled, I think, by that glasses issue.
Yeah.
Which they obviate actually very early on with an interaction he has with one of the walkers, and there are no spoilers on this one. But you're not allowed fully in, and maybe that is the overall review that knocks it down from an A+ to whatever you want to grade it to. It's still certainly a recommend for me. I think you should see it in the theaters as well. There's something about the expansiveness of the cinematography and the landscapes they're in, and the really excellent camera work that makes this film about 50 men walking on a straight road for nearly 2 hours actually interesting to watch. I just I think there you want more heart, and some of that I think is because the story leads you there. So it's look, I understand studios and producers need to keep things tight, and also it's dangerous territory to lean too much in a film geared toward young men into the sentimental or the emotional, but we live in the 21st century, god damn it.
And I think it does a really good job with the heartwarming and the sentimental value of it, and I think young men in the audience are being more open to that. I think, especially, I think when they go see this film, they will see their friends in these characters too. I think you even saw that with Superman earlier in the summer. Like that is a movie all about kindness and going against masculinity. I think we're getting to a point where these movies that are coming out in theaters are changing, and I think they're changing for the better.
I agree.
And they're doing things that worked really well in the early 2000s and even 90s, but they're doing new stuff that just works perfectly. with the
Well,
old stuff.
I love that you brought it up because there's there is an ongoing conversation in the media about the challenge of being a young man in America anyway, in this world with social media and whatnot. And I think it's important not to gender young people's issues, but this does speak to that because there's only one woman in the whole cast, and that's the story, right? That's the way it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a start for sure, and
It
I
is.
I respect that, and I hope it gets the roses it deserves, so that more movies like this are made. I think you're right. There's an audience for this kind of thing, a large audience for this
Yeah.
kind of thing.
And you have to see it in the theater.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any other way to watch this movie. I mean, it is perfect to be seated next to like a bunch of other people that are
Yeah.
all freaking out at the same time
Yeah.
or crying at the same time.
Right.
It's just that kind of movie.
Yeah, I like the dystopia. Just to add to, like, there's something about the world building was enough for me. I think because I recognized cars that were around when I was a kid. Like people had old cars like that were still around, and this I think time wise it sort of cleaves to the era in which it was written for a very good reason. And it's to me the sort of the poverty of the landscape, which is really the economic theme of the film, not to give anything too much away, is important to see. And there's something rural and what is the word I'm looking for? There's something rural and simple, desolate about the state of that world, and I don't know how much description you could give of that beyond what they show, which is
and you do
well
feel that there was some sort of greater society that was there.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of like everything feels very lived in,
right,
but empty.
Right, abandoned almost. Yeah. Cool, man. What else? First of all, thank you for joining us this preseason. You are not going to be a host in the fall here as we collect our new team, but we hope you'll come back again. You were really an important part of our last season. Is there anything you're looking forward to seeing in the near future before the end of the year?
Anything in theaters, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh man.
No, just in life. Do you want to see something in traffic that's,
I love those self-driving cars. I can't wait to see a Waymo on the street.
I saw Zooks yesterday, driving around with no driver.
The Zookses are. I kind of like how they look.
They're
I wouldn't
cool.
get in one. I wouldn't get in one.
Either. No, I wouldn't either.
Yeah,
but it's cool. Las Vegas, way to go, man.
Oh God, what am I excited to see? I'm excited to see Splitsville. I missed that at Cannes.
I did too.
So I'm really excited to see that.
Yeah, it's getting good reviews.
It is, and I love Adria. I can't think of her name. Adria something. Jason Momoa's wife.
Yeah, is she Jason Momoa's wife?
Yes, she is. Yeah,
she's in Andor. Yeah, she's the one from Andor.
She's in Andor. Yes. She's also in Hitman, I think, Linklater's movie. I'm trying to think what else is coming out. But there's just a bunch. There's so much good stuff. I saw Caught Stealing. That was incredible.
Oh, yeah?
Caught Stealing is Darren Aronofsky directed it.
Oh, right.
Austin Butler, Zoe Kravitz. Yeah. Massive cast.
Yeah.
Regina King. Yeah.
Good?
Yeah. Really good. Really good.
So why do you think it was relegated to this weird end of August release date?
I think they had a hard time marketing it. Because it's marketed as this like kind of funny like crime comedy.
Yeah.
But it's actually very dark. And I don't think it has a very good word of mouth because of that. I think most audiences walk in, they're expecting what is marketed, and that's not really what happens. It's still funny throughout the entire movie, but it's I don't think it's still got that Aronofsky feel to it. That
well,
darkness.
maybe it'll
So,
gather an audience and cult status on streaming.
I think it will.
Yeah.
I think it definitely will, because it's a fantastic movie.
Cool. Because we're a university podcast, when do you graduate? Do you graduate this semester in the spring?
It'll be this year, spring semester.
Oh my God! What can we expect from you, Mr. Filmmaker? What are you making?
Oh my God! Well, I'm producing Isaiah Guerra's next short film, which is going to be very insane. We're starting rehearsals this month because we're shooting it as a oneer, so the entire short film is going to be no cuts.
Awesome.
Maybe a few hidden ones.
Awesome.
So we're working on that. We'll
love it. All right, my friend. It's fantastic to see you last night in person, and I look forward to more of that on campus. And thank you for joining us on the film department. And get ready in a couple of weeks for our premiere episode of season 3.
Can't wait to see who's on.
Me too. Thanks so much, Nick.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
The Film Department is supported by UNLV Film. At the Film Department of the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, every story has a beginning. With degree programs for undergraduates and graduates, state-of-the-art equipment and facilities, incredible professional internships around the world, and expert guest speakers, students discover the power and potential of cinema as they prepare for the film and television industry and beyond. Learn more at unlv.edu/film. UNLV Film. Find your voice, tell your story. Imagined by the Rogers Foundation, the Beverly Theater brings cinematic connectivity, novel collaborations, live happenings, cultural portals, and a zest for independent spirits to downtown Las Vegas. With a mission to stage uncommon cinematic, literary, and live experiences, the Beverly Theater is Las Vegas's first and only independent film house, storytelling arena, and live music venue. Check out our event calendar at thebeverlytheater.com.